I didn't expect to make this video. I thought the only video I was going to make about Invincible would be when Season 2 comes out in November. But then, out of nowhere, at San Diego Comic-Con, they dropped this absolutely incredible Atom Eve special that I basically had no choice but to make a video on. The special is absolutely amazing, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but I just want to give some context about how I got into Invincible a bit first, so that we can see where I'm coming into this special out of, if that makes more sense. I began watching Invincible the day before the finale dropped, and I'll be real, I've loved this series since the beginning. It's just, the first episode captivated me so much, and it was a massive breath of fresh air in the massively oversaturated superhero landscape. So, after binging the entire show in like 5 hours, and watching the finale, I was desperately craving more Invincible content. But, after I found out that Season 2 and 3 had been postponed indefinitely for no reason, I decided to try and forget about it as best as I could. Until this happened. Yeah, Invincible was really good. Honestly, the things I would do to see what happens next season, it's crazy.
Yeah, me too. I just can't wait to see how they adapt it.
Adapt? Brother, it's an Amazon original show. The fuck are you talking about?
You do realize that Invincible is based on like a 100-part comic book series, right?
What? And the rest is history. For real though, after finding out that Invincible was a comic book series, I entered some sort of Invincible frenzy. I was consuming the comics and issues at an alarming rate. It got to the point where I wanted to read issues so badly, I began skipping school by just sitting on a bench near my school and skipping my first 2 lessons and occasionally 4 lessons just so I could read the comics, because I enjoyed them that much. Genuinely, the world building in this show is second to none. The way Invincible crafts its characters and foreshadows its arcs and its fights is just amazing. The art is eye candy with some of the best creative visionaries working on the Invincible comic books. Some of them who have gone on to work on Spider-Man, who, as many of you know, is a personal favourite hero of mine. Like, just some of the fights to mention a few. Obviously, spoiler warning here. Invincible vs Conquest, Atom Eve when she joined in, that was incredible. Invincible vs Thrag, Nolan vs Thrag, the Invincible War, oh my god, don't even get me started on the Invincible War. Angsham Levi, the crossovers with Spidey and a few other people. Just a few of those to mention just a handful of some of my favourite moments in the series where I could do nothing but pick my jaw up off the floor from, awe in general. So naturally, while in this Invincible frenzy, I stumbled across Atom Eve's backstory tie-in comic, which I neglected to read as I wasn't really a fan of Atom Eve at the time, and I was trying to consume as much Mark Grayson Invincible content as possible, not really the side characters. It wasn't until the Invincible War where she became a personal favourite of mine. Anyway, long story short, I never got around to reading the original source material, so I went into this special basically fully blind, except for the tidbits Atom Eve told us during the dialogue in the comic books, of course. So, I guess the big question is, does this story that Robert Kirkman apparently made in a singular weekend hold up to the grand and intricate and overarching story that Invincible was creating over the span of a few years? Well, the short answer is yes. Don't get me wrong, as a long episodic type story, the Invincible Season 1 obviously fares a lot better as one of the comic books, because they're supposed to be told in longer natures to further expand upon the world building. However, when it comes to singular stories told in sort of a vacuum, this Atom Eve special is honest to God breathtaking. And aside from the final episode of Invincible Season 1, it is the definitive best episode of the series ever. And in my opinion, it's not even close. It's better animated with the lighting really improving from Season 1, the fights just looking absolutely amazing, and they all feel premium quality. You can really tell the animation crew has gone above and beyond to try and make this special set them apart from the series, as it has its own air of childish enjoyment to it, despite it being a gory and bloody mess like Invincible actually is. Of the very few fights in this special, I have to talk about just one of them, the fight with Atom Eve and her siblings, which sticks out to me the most. Legit, it has some of the cleanest looking superhero animation ever. Like, the way Atom Eve just slides and almost dances during the fight, as her vibrant and abstract powers do weird and wonderful things, is honest to God beautiful, and I couldn't have asked for more when it comes to making this character into special. It just makes me want to rewatch the scenes over and over again. This special was also amazing at developing the characters, and since it's excelled so well at creating them, it's highlighted a few personal favourite characters that I have now, despite not seeing them in years since I read the comics. They did this by adding depth to some characters that I wish they kind of got in the past, like the Guardians of the Globe, and when it comes to the TV show, Atom Eve of course. An example of this would be Dr. Brandyworth. An absolutely great character, and just an honest to god good guy who got stuck in a bad situation and was trying to get out of it with as few casualties as possible, let alone children. The special develops him in a kind of father mental situation, as like a character that Atom Eve should have had but didn't due to the circumstances of her birth. So seeing him come into his own and help Atom Eve with her powers and keeping away from the government, it did feel really nice and in place properly. So when his death happened later in the special, it did hit quite hard despite we only knew him for like 50 minutes that he was on screen. That's good character development, when after 50 minutes I can feel worse than when Rengoku died after like a 2.5 hour special in Demon Slayer. I genuinely enjoyed his part of the story almost as much as I did Atom Eve's herself, and I feel that they made this character absolutely fantastically. Speaking of things handled fantastically, the exploration of Atom Eve not just as a hero or a character, but as a person, were really nice and quite heartwarming to be honest. We now have a sense of how she got to where she did with her parents after the mental and emotional abuse from her dad, and it's quite sad to see it happen over the span of her life, as she could have had something completely different with Dr. Brandyworth, but once again, due to certain circumstances, that couldn't happen, so she was left with parents who didn't really know what to do with her, and as a result of that, they treated her like trash. Like, even this special was developed brilliantly, and she is just a brilliant character who was brought into this special worse than she came out. And I don't mean that in the bad way. I mean that this special improved upon her in almost every conceivable way, and improved upon her drastically. All while this show is focusing on, of course, Mark, even a few of the other supporting characters, such as Rex and the rest of the Guardians of the Globe, did feel a little underdeveloped next to him, which is only natural with an 8-episode, 320-minute story. So, seeing characters like Eve, Brandyworth, the world of Invincible, and the OG Guardians of the Globe being developed a lot more, it does make this world feel a lot more whole, as I feel like that's something that was kind of skipped out on in the Invincible series, like they did in the comics. They developed each of the characters intricately, and it made them feel a lot more human. And I feel like this special has achieved what the comics was trying to do so many years ago, making these characters feel like they could actually exist. Low-key, this special has gotten me wanting to see more of Atom Eve by herself, as she works so well as a character who isn't naturally dark and gritty, but has a dark and gritty backstory, really selling me on that grimy but hopeful part of the world that Invincible once again is trying to develop. Overall, I love just about everything about this special, and all the changes they made to the original source material. It's a genuinely breathtaking story with a really neat and tidy beginning, middle and end. Fantastic character development, world building and incredible animation. Really leaving me hopeful and once again craving for the further exploration of Atom Eve as a character in the upcoming season of her and Mark's relationship. 9.2 out of 10. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.